Hey everybody!
Hey,
I hope all of you fabulous people are doing fantastic today. Emily, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Danny. How are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. I'm glad you asked me.
Of
So,
course.
everybody, welcome to week 4 of our series, Journey to the Promised Land. Week 1, we talked about faith in the midst of fear and Moses' mom putting him in a river. That's nuts. Week 2, we talked about how God doesn't waste the waiting and Moses is in a desert for 40 years. And that's crazy, but God doesn't waste the waiting. In week 3, we talked about getting up and go. And then there's this bush that's on fire talking to Moses. That's crazy. And so they're finally fixing to start leaving Egypt. And that brings us to week 4, which is God sees the bigger picture. We're talking Exodus chapters 13 and 14. Emily, why don't you give us a rundown of what happens there?
Yeah. Okay. So in these chapters, the Israelites are leaving Egypt. Okay, and so they are making their way to the Promised Land. But what we find out is that they're not necessarily going like the fastest route there. So they're kind of going around some things, but they don't really know that. So I'm sure at this point they're kind of frustrated, like, oh great, now I get to walk further. You think they'd be happy, like their Fitbit would have been like, you already reached your goal, but it's fine. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we find out, however, that God is actually taking them around where they are not having to fight the Philistines. And so he was actually protecting them in that. But obviously, they didn't see that in the moment, right? But God sees the bigger picture. As they continue their journey, they come to the Red Sea, right? And we know the story, the parting of the Red Sea. But guys, sometimes I think we forget, um, like they were humans just like us. Like all the stories that we read about in the Bible, these people were people. And we don't always see the bigger picture. We're always wondering, like, how is God going to like fix this? And so they were probably wondering the same thing, like, I'm not about to just jump in and try to swim to the other side. And so um, but what are they going to do? They have all these people. Pharaoh is just like not okay that he's let those people go now. So his chariots and all his men are like charge running after them. And I think it's like the scene from Narnia. I'm pretty convinced. Like it just has
Oh,
to
yeah.
be. Yes. And so that's what's happening. So they have these people coming this way. They have the water in front of them. It's okay. So God, what are we going to do now? Well, he's like, well, I'll just show you. So Moses raises his staff because he's following what God says. And then
Mhm.
the Red Sea parts. And the people are able to walk through to the other side and continue their journey to the promised land, right? But again, they didn't know that was how the ending was going to go. I'm sure through that there was some fear, some questioning, and just like, God, what are you doing? And
Mhm.
so I feel like we can all relate to that for sure. And just that, we don't always see the big picture. We just have this snapshot. And so, Danny, I mean, do you have anything like in just your personal walk with God, like where you've just seen that?
Yeah, so I'm big into music, right? I've been playing trumpet since I was like 11.
No way.
Oh
11?
my God, right? So, so I've been involved with marching band and stuff. I was involved for like 7 years, and whenever I was in college, whenever I was at Tarleton, my director, Dr. Westbrook, shout out, he told me, hey, I'm gonna have you do this thing. I'm gonna take you away from all your trumpet players, right? And I'm gonna put you over here. See, what we have to understand about marching band is that you can be in a spot, but all you really can see is the people around you, right? And you can think that you're in the right spot, but if the guy up top sees that you are not in the right spot, he's going to put you where you need to go. And you have to trust that guy that he's not going to make you look like an idiot down there, right? So Dr. Westbrook says, hey, Danny, I need you to come over here. I need you to come away from all these trumpet players, and I need you to come to the side of the field. And I was like, well, that's dumb. Trumpet players are where I go. So I go to the side of the field to play my thing, and then I realized if I had tried to get here the way that I wanted to, if I had tried to go to the spot that I thought that I needed to go, then I would have run to like at least 9 saxophone players, right? And I would have like dents in my head and whatever. But Dr. Westbrook was trying to prevent that from happening, so he had me come to the side of the field and play that way. And I'm sure he remembers that show. I like took a bow after it and everything. But the point was, if I didn't trust that the director knew what he was doing, I probably could have been put in harm's way. And I think it's kind of the same way with the Israelites and God. I feel
Yeah.
like The Israelites, if they didn't trust God and they had just gone the way that they thought they wanted to, they would have had some bumps in the road. They probably could have all died, right? Because Philistines were a stronger military power than a bunch of slaves at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just kind of the relation that I just kind of get in my head. So.
Yeah, that's so good. And it reminds me too, like, so there's one time where my dad and I were putting together this weight set. And, I was like, Dad, we should probably maybe follow the instruction manual. Cause when I'm working out, I would like for it to not just fall on my face and, hurt me. And so, we did that, and it took you step by step. Every page would just show you a couple of things that you needed to do. It would show you exactly what tools you needed and, every piece to put it together. And it just showed you a little at a time until you reached the end. And so we got it put together and everything. I flipped to the last page of that manual. Oh my goodness, it was so overwhelming. Every single piece that we had to use, the whole diagram was on there. And I was like, if I had seen this first, I probably would have said, yeah, good luck, Dad. I hope you can do this on your own. And so it just reminds me God does see the bigger picture, and sometimes he just gives us a little bit at a time. Because I'm sure both of us could say this. There are some trials in our life that if God had been like, hey, you're going to go through this, this, and this, it would have been like, can we just not? That'd be great if we could just avoid that.
Right.
But through those, we've grown, and he's been faithful, and he's used it for good. And so I just think both of those are cool analogies of just how God does see the bigger picture. And, even now, with what we're currently facing, I know a lot of people kind of question, what is the end going to look like? I don't know. But I do know that God sees the bigger picture. He wasn't surprised by this. He's still in control, and I can trust that he's going to work it out. And I don't see the bigger picture. So I just have to rest in knowing that he does. And so sometimes it's really hard walking through things that, we can't see the ending. But like I said, God sees the bigger picture. He did for the Israelites. He does for us. And he's going to lead us, guide us, and comfort us through every season that we walk through. He's constant, and we can trust that he's faithful through those seasons of life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's important right now to address that, God doesn't cause bad things to happen.
Right. For sure.
He caused Egyptians to force the Israelites into slavery. But what he did was he saw this big picture. He said, this is the problem. I know how to get them to the solution. They're going to go through some rough stuff.
Right.
So I'm going to get them to where they need to be. I'm going to get them to the promised land. God didn't, if you're going through something, God didn't cause the bad things to happen to you, but he's working to get you to a better place. And sometimes, those plants, they're seeds, and they have to get to where they're growing. They got to get through the dirt, right? Right. So I believe that we all are kind of in the same process. So God sees the bigger picture. God knows where he wants you to be. You just got to trust that he's getting you to the right spot. So that's all we have for week 4. God sees the bigger picture. Make sure y'all come to church today, 10:45 in the building church, social distancing. Y'all come. It's going to be great. And y'all stay tuned next week for week 5 of our journey in the promised land. See everybody later.
Bye, guys.